What's up, y'all? Will here at Schedule Fly. Well, we finally have another episode with a restaurant owner. It's been a couple of months. As I've mentioned in some of these little short episodes I've done, I've been kind of laying low on pursuing people, but I think it's a good time to get these things going again. And Marco Shaw was kind enough to join today. Marco's president of Redbeard Restaurants in Atlanta, Georgia. Phenomenal organization down there. Have five or six very successful concepts. They've got a very successful not-for-profit. They Marco talked about retooling their entire business model during COVID, and to account for just what's going on in the industry, what people feel about the industry, about working in the industry, what they like and dislike. So all of their concepts are now open 4 days a week. So this is a really cool conversation. He has been all over the country, from New York to Santa Fe to New Orleans to Portland to Richmond, Durham, and now Atlanta. And I may be missing some, but Marco is a great dude. He's a father. He's cares a lot about the people that work for him very clearly, and I really enjoy talking to him. So, without further ado, this is Marco Shaw, Redbeard Restaurants, Atlanta, Georgia. What's up, Marco?
Well, how are you today?
Man, I'm really good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Uh, Dude, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Um, Dude, I was reading up on you. You've had an awesome. Actually, let's do this. Introduce yourself first of all.
Okay. My name is Marco Shaw. I'm the president of Red Beard Restaurants in Atlanta.
Down in Atlanta, Georgia. So you've been at it a long time. You've been everywhere from Richmond to New Orleans, New York City, Portland, Santa Fe, Durham. Now you're in Atlanta. But
Right.
you started out with you got a degree in psychology in college.
Yes. Yes, I did.
Now, are you still interested? I mean, I got a degree in history and I still kind of stay interested in it, although I don't use it in any practical way. Do you still, are you still interested in psychology?
I feel like I use it every day, just managing people.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was I mean, it's a big part of what you do, and probably seemingly getting maybe more and more challenging right now is getting people to be a part of your team, keeping those people, managing those people, helping them learn, helping them grow.
Definitely.
No, I want to rap to you a little bit about that. So tell us about Redbeard Restaurants. Just what concepts y'all have down there, and just maybe a brief 30-second history of Redbeard.
Sure. We started in opened the first restaurant in 2013. That was a restaurant called Gun Show. That restaurant's a little more eclectic. It's 100% chef driven, and the menu changes pretty frequently. So it's eclectic American. Then we opened a place called Revival, which is more contemporary Southerners. We opened that in 2015. In 2017, we opened a restaurant at the city's Ben Stadium. And then in 2019, we opened two restaurants, one called Cold Beer, which is time was it's a huge restaurant. It's beverage focused. Then we opened a coffee shop also in 2019. That's called Old Reliable. Then recently we shut down Cold Beer and revamped the entire concept and relaunched that at a place called Slab Town. That just opened about 6 weeks ago.
What's it called?
Slab Town.
Ooh, tell me about Slabtown.
Slab Town is still a bar. We came out the gate pre-COVID with a restaurant that was very ambitious. Seats about 250 people inside and outside and on a rooftop. And it was very high end. And then post pandemic, we realized that we needed something that's a little more approachable. So the food's more approachable, it's more user friendly, for burgers and nachos and something totally different than anything we've ever done before. And it's a much larger beverage menu, something to appeal to the masses.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I was reading on your site about, which I thought was really cool. I want to hear about this not for profit that y'all started called Defend Southern Food. Tell me about that.
So during the pandemic, We did a few things as we brought our restaurant back. We partnered with a couple organizations in town. Out of one restaurant, we partnered with Jose Andres' World Central Kitchen for funding, and from through there, we fed 500 families, 500 people a day for about 6 months.
A day?
And then a day, and then 5 days a week. And then out of the restaurant we had Colbert at the time, we partnered with another organization called I'm a Father First, and we raised capital for that and brought a few people back to work. And from there, we fed 700 kids in the Atlanta public school system. And we did that through 2020, up until around November. And then at that point, we had always wanted to do some sort of philanthropic thing and realized that we're on a higher end of the dining, the scale of what it costs us to go out to dinner. We've always wanted to find a better way to give back, and realize that, as we're doing what we're doing, there's so many people out there who just can't feed themselves. So we decided that we wanted to continue feeding people. So we partnered with we raised capital. We got a sponsor through a group called the Players Philanthropy Fund, and they help establish our 501c3 status, and we work with a school pod here in Atlanta that's 5 elementary schools that feed into 1 middle school, that feed into 1 high school, and the social workers in those schools, and they identify families in need. So through there, we provide meals for 125 families, dinners, where these kids all qualify for free or reduced breakfast and lunch. We fill in the dinner factor. We send home a dinner for up to 8 people.
That's awesome, man. You got a full plate.
Should be cool.
Well, okay. So going back a little bit, you went to college, got a degree in psychology, and then you are now running a very impressive restaurant organization. You've been in the business for, I think, over 20 years, if I read that correctly.
Just over 30 now.
Over 30 now. Well, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
I mean, that's no small feat. In the last, 2 or 3 years have been as challenging as any could be, probably for people in the restaurant space. I mean, I don't know. It's just like they threw everything at you, and here y'all are. So I tip my hat to that. That takes a lot of resolve and grit and determination and hustle and faith and optimism, and rolling the sleeves up and probably doing when you probably didn't feel like it a lot of times, but and then to expand and grow into serving others is a really amazing thing. What I find to have been, we've been doing this for 15 years here at Schedule Fly, and I've done so many of these podcasts, and I feel so fortunate because I feel like I learn from y'all and I get inspired from y'all every time I speak to people that do what you do, because running a restaurant is a tough business. It takes a special type. There's a lot of people that, hey, I'm a good cook, I want to own a restaurant. There's a huge disconnect there, because it is like, it takes all these different skills, financial acumen, leadership, all these other skills that have nothing to do with cooking, being able to inspire people in your community, giving back to your community, being a welcoming place and a gathering place for families that want to celebrate or mourn or whatever. When did you know, Marco, you got into the business, as a lot of people do when they're young, maybe just to make some money or whatever? Like, when did it hit you this is what you really loved and what you wanted to do?
Pretty immediately. I waited tables in a restaurant in Richmond. Before I was slated to start med school I wanted to be a psychiatrist. I waited tables in a restaurant in Richmond, and I fell in love with that whole feeling of throwing a party every night, and people were coming and celebrating anniversaries and birthdays and engagements. And I really liked that energy. And I went to the owner of that restaurant, probably 4 months into waiting tables there, and asked him, "Hey, I want to do this. I want to own a restaurant, and I want to throw parties every day. What do you think I should do?" And he goes, "Well, you have multiple ways to go about it. You can keep working at it and learn how to do it, or and learn the management aspect, or you can learn the cooking aspect. That's what you're more interested in. And at the time, then I talked to the chef, and it seemed like the best way for me to go about it was to learn how to cook and operate the kitchen and learn from other people, and then take classes in hotel restaurant management so I could learn how to do. I didn't want to learn other people's bad habits. I wanted to learn the right way to operate a restaurant, like the way they teach you in school. And my degree was in something different. So after talking to the owner and the chef, they set me on the path of doing an apprenticeship and going to culinary school and getting my postgraduate in hotel restaurant management. And I knew pretty like probably like third or fourth month in, like this is awesome. I want to do this.
And so you went and you've been to a lot of different really great culinary cities, traditionally great culinary cities from New Orleans to New York, Portland, Santa Fe. Do any of those, and there you are in Atlanta now, but I'm just curious, like, tell me a little bit about what you learned in the different cities that you were in, and whether from a culinary perspective or just how you saw people run businesses maybe differently, or how they operate, or what the culture is like in those towns that you picked up.
So when I started cooking, it was in '92, and I was in Richmond. No internet. It's mostly cookbooks and food magazines. One of the chefs there gave me a subscription to a magazine called Food Arts. And I was looking through Food Arts, and I could see all these different chefs around the country doing different types of food. And I realized, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to learn different types of Americana. Everyone was doing French or Italian. And I'm like, I really want to learn different types of Americana. So as I'm reading these magazines, cookbooks, I saw all these different people in different. New Orleans has its own tradition. Santa Fe they have their own food styles. California has its own food styles. Even Virginia has their own food styles. So I picked people that I wanted to work for, and I would either write them letters or move to a city and just show up and try to work with these people. And each of them, I learned a style of Americana and techniques. I wanted to work for chefs that were actually in the buildings and working the line or expediting, so I could ask questions all the time. And then places, almost everyone was willing to show you stuff. And then when it came down to front of the house stuff, I was fortunate to be in restaurants where the GMs and the bookkeepers were really open, and I just took notes on everything. I learned things I wanted to do and things I would never ever do. And then you learn, you see other people's the small details that people do, like what type of light bulbs they use in a building, what kind of lighting, how big their bathrooms are, how they run their lineups, how do they keep track of all their inventory, when they do it, all these different things. I took notes on them so that by the time I opened my first restaurant, I had notebooks on notebooks of notebooks of ideas and things that I had to read through and learn on the non-food side, just the operational stuff, plus all the people I had learned from cooking. I felt like I was at a point in my life I was ready to do my own thing and put all this piece together and try to do it.
Where was your first restaurant that you owned?
First restaurants were in Portland.
Okay. Was that how did you raise money for that, or was that like, how did you go about financing that?
I got a small business loan, and then the rest I raised money through. I was a chef at a restaurant in Portland, and got to know a lot of the diners, and made a small name for myself. And then there was a lot of customers who I developed rapport with, and then I would reach out to them to tell them what my plan was, and if they could have a few people for dinner, and I fixed dinner for them and up to 10 friends, and then I'd pitch my business plan to them, and I basically sold about $150,000 worth of just so that people had gifts to that. They all got gift cards gift certificates in return for their investment.
Inflation aside, do you think you could start a restaurant for whatever you started it for back then, like now, under the same, like if you had that same amount?
I opened my first restaurant in 2002, and I put everything in, all the electrical, concrete, for like $230. I might be able to do that in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, but not many of these big cities. That'd be hard.
Well, so you had your first place. You're out there in Portland. How long were you there before you moved somewhere else?
I was in Portland for 13 years. My wife is from there. I met my wife in Santa Fe, and she's from Portland. That's how we ended up there. And we were there until 2000. I left Portland in 2009.
Okay, gotcha. Where did y'all go after that?
Durham.
Oh, and you opened a place in Durham. Okay, so that's where you went to Durham, and then from Durham to Atlanta, right?
Yeah, I moved to Durham in 2009. Partnered with a couple that was looking to open a restaurant. And they had a restaurant in the farm. I was really interested in that aspect. In Portland, my first restaurant was, except for citrus, salt and pepper, everything came from within 100 miles of the restaurant. So Extreme Farm, like everything, herbs, we either grew them or stored them and made it ourselves, or it came from a small farm. We had no broadliners. I used Cisco. I used a broadliner for like paper products, plastic wrap, trash bags, and citrus. Then everything else came from a small farm, or I had a couple guys who fished for me and ranchers. So doing that again somewhere in North Carolina seemed appropriate and appealing. And I met a couple that had a farm in Hillsborough, and a restaurant at the time in Raleigh, and they wanted to open something in Durham. So I joined their partnership team, and four of us had a restaurant in Raleigh and one in Durham.
Okay, and then so you were married at the time when you moved, and I know you're a father. How many kids do you have?
Two.
How old are they?
My son, it will be 17 in August, and my daughter is 12.
Okay, so the reason I asked, I was wondering if they're about that age. I have an 18-year-old. She just graduated. She's going off to college. I got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old son, two boys and a girl.
Right.
My 15-year-old son is he goes in tomorrow for his interview at Chick-fil-A for his first job.
Right. Nice.
I really wanted him to be. I thought it was important that he be in a restaurant setting, and I think to start, Chick-fil-A does a great job with just training and I'm just always kind of admired their process and how they pull off doing what they do so well.
I don't know how they identify the correct people. They don't have anyone who works for them who's unhappy in their job.
Yeah,
there's something pretty phenomenal about how they choose employees.
I don't get it. I mean, I know that there's like, even now, with as hard as it is to find people to work, like there's a lot of demand. Like I hope he gets the job.
Right. Right.
But I was so you got a 17-year-old. Is your 17-year-old interested in restaurants too, or different interests?
Different interests, but I mean, he has spent some time working. He's worked a little bit, bussing tables, food running, and things like that.
I just feel like restaurants are such a, I want him to start there, and then we'll see over the next couple of summers. I think restaurants are like, no matter what you're going to do, I'm completely convinced as a teenager, the skills that you would learn working in a restaurant, if you get dialed in with like a good operator, like you guys, and you're willing to listen and learn, like you said, you took all this note, even if you don't want to be in restaurants, like the ability to navigate all the things you have to navigate in a restaurant with operating at a fast pace, but then making it seem calm and slow for the customer and making them feel warm and welcome while there's just chaos and all this stuff going. I feel like it's a really, really valuable skill set that all what you learn would serve you well in any field ultimately, because there's not many things that just take like this. I mean, for 6-8 hours, whatever it is, 10 hours, you're just like high pace, but you got to stay calm. And like, it's takes a unique type. So do you have, Marco, do you have people that I'm sure you have over the years? I'm curious if you still have people that remind you of yourself, that are young and interested and taking notes and wanting to learn and wanting to pursue this as a career. Do you still see that?
Yeah, not as much as you did for maybe 15 years ago, or even within the last 3 years. I think that's post pandemic, a lot of things have changed, but I still do find a lot of people who are, especially cooks and
Mm.
bartenders, who are looking at this more as a career and excited about that possibility, who ask a lot of questions and always curious about how to get to the next level. Um, our industry doesn't do the same for, I don't think it offers the same opportunity for servers all the time. I think it attracts a certain type of person who is looking for quick money and likes the flexibility. So often it's a second job or it's a path for them to get where they need to get to for a lot of the front of house employees. But occasionally you find some who are career servers or look at this as a career path.
Are y'all there in Atlanta? Is it still really challenging to find people to come back to work?
Extremely hard. Yeah. There's a lot of things I learned post pandemic. I had no idea that this many people didn't enjoy working in the business until I read about all the people who felt burned out or mistreated.
Yep.
Just so many people. So when we brought the restaurants back, we shut down March 15th, like most people did, of 2020, and then we opened the first restaurant in May, and then in June, July, and August, we were pretty successful. I reopened restaurants. We came back with a whole different format. Like we all the restaurants were 5-day weeks. Like I've only had 5-day week restaurants previously, and we came back. I'm only operating 4 days a week.
4?
So I retooled the entire model of everything that we do so that we can figure out how to operate with less people, but also how to operate. So, and I'm forcing everyone into a different lifestyle, so that all the restaurants are closed 3 days in a row. So everyone has like a gun show. Everyone's off Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Then every Revival and Slabtown, those restaurants are closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we're only operating 4-day a week businesses, so that it's the work-life balance. I'm kind of forcing everyone into it, and then we've had to change our model and everything, pricing, how we're paying people, the benefits that we offer. So I'm trying to do a lot of things that are more reactive and proactive to the current work environment. And as we've learned more about how people actually talked about working in the business, trying to create a different environment so that everyone feels appreciated, and they realize that we actually don't just call it family and say these things, that we actually kind of treat everyone as if it takes all of us to make this work. So I want to make sure everyone realizes that we do care about their off time.
Wow, dude, that is phenomenal. 4 days a week. That's no small feat to retool your entire model and still, I mean, there's so much, there's so much that goes along with that. And
right, because nothing else changes. Rent doesn't change.
Yeah.
Insurance doesn't change.
Got fixed costs that are going
right.
God, hey, man.
So instead, I've been able to drop the total payroll number down, but we're still, people are making, I know for a fact that everyone who works for me makes more now than they were pre-pandemic, but I have less of them. So my payroll percentage is lower, but no one's working. There's only a few people who are working over 40 hours.
So when you talk about how hard it is to find people to work now, is it hourly employees or managers or both? Everyone.
Both. Yeah. Hourly employees are really hard, but even finding managers or salary, any salary employees.
What's everybody doing? Like, where did all the people that work in restaurants go? Like,
I don't know. I think a lot of people struck out on their own and did their own, or they're doing their own catering, or they're doing pop-ups, or they got into something else. They figured out how to sell something on Etsy. And then, a lot of people died.
Yeah.
It's a lot of different things. A lot of people moved on or moved to different cities or moved back home, or, some people made life-changing money during the pandemic. If you're a $14 an hour dishwasher somewhere, then you got stimulus checks and unemployment from the states that are, and some people are making more money than they ever made. So there's some people save money. A lot of people spent it, but a lot of people actually, people were able to save money, start and do something different.
All right, I have to ask you this. I was reading your bio, on your site, and you mentioned that your favorite period in time was medieval Britain. What gives?
I had this King Arthur fascination as a young kid. I don't know. I don't know where it came from.
There's a great podcast. You ever listen to podcasts? I mean, you're on
yeah.
one, right?
Yeah, right.
There's a great podcast called Hardcore History by a guy named Dan Carlin. And
it's the most amazing thing to listen to on a long trip. It's like 4 hours about one event.
Yeah, so you've heard it. You've heard.
Oh yeah, I've listened to it. It's incredible.
Well, the one okay, then I definitely want to tell you about this. I had written this down that I was there. He did one on he did one episode, and it was like 3 or 4 hours, and it was on the Anabaptist revolt in Munster, Germany, in like 1363 or something like that. And I was like, who cares? And then I listened to it. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I was like,
the level of detail that guy goes into is pretty amazing.
It's amazing. He's great. He makes history very interesting. I always felt like, I felt like that's the way you should teach it. If he's got a unique skill set, and as he says, he's not a historian, but he makes you so interested. You just want to learn. You don't care what he's talking about. Like whatever it is, that's fascinating. Like, and also, so I also saw that you're a Garth Brooks fan.
I wouldn't say I'm a Garth Brooks fan, but when I worked in Richmond, I worked in a restaurant that when the greatest hit albums came out, and it was nonstop. Oh, you got so just by proxy, I learned all the lyrics from hearing it on a regular basis.
Did you know that dude has sold more albums than any musician in history? It's like him, and then a few million below him is Elvis, and then it's like massive drop off until like the Beatles or whatever. Like I learned that recently. I had no clue. I was like, that's not true, and I looked it up, and it's totally true. He's sold like 157 million albums or something like that. Yeah,
it's quite amazing.
I mean, it's pretty impressive. Well, look, man, I don't want to keep you much longer. I know you're a busy guy, but I appreciate you taking time. I appreciate your business, from the Schedule Fly perspective, but really appreciate you, doing yet another thing to kind of give back to the community that, of restaurants and people that listen to this podcast, and sharing your wit and wisdom. And I'm congrats on retooling that business, man. That is
definitely, thank you. There's a lot of work.
That's a lot.
I'm still figuring it out on a regular basis, but it's got to be, you got to find ways to recruit people and to keep people happy and make them want to stay and working for you and with you. Well, keep fighting the good fight, man. Y'all are doing great work, and we're proud to serve you. We appreciate you, and just I thank you very much for the time today, Marco. Thanks a lot, Will. All right, man. Have a good one. Take care. Thanks.